Hi everyone, Anthony Bambino here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Guerilla Toss album, Twisted Crystal. This is the latest full-length album from New York band Guerilla Toss, a group that has had a pretty lengthy and strange musical evolution in the American underground for the good part of a decade now. The band's early work see them blasting out hybrids of noise rock and no wave and post-punk, even dance punk and math rock, really harrowing, freakish, and uncompromising records like 2013's Gay Disco. I liked the band's attitude, their energy, the influences they were so obviously wearing on their sleeves, but the production and the performances on this thing were purposefully messy to the point where I think some good ideas were being lost in translation. But past this record, the band started to bring stronger grooves to the table, clean up the production, diversify their influences, which turned me from curious to captivated, specifically on their 2017 album GT Ultra, a record that saw the raw and overwhelming energy of their previous efforts shifted into a throwback, referencing some of the most mutant sounds of new wave and post-punk of the 1980s. Bands like XTC and Devo, art pop acts like Sparks. GT Ultra, in my opinion, was a refreshingly modern take on this anomaly in pop music's past. And as much as I like the ideas that the group settled on with GT Ultra, they have been evolving their sound one album after another up until this point. I couldn't not go into this album without expecting some kind of change. A change that I hope would see them innovating with this style that they were kind of dabbling in with their last record. And while Twisted Crystal does offer a lot of the zany instrumentation and irresistible grooves that GT Ultra did, it is a far odder listen, with the band dipping their toes into much more experimental and psychedelic territory. It does kneecap the accessibility of this album to a degree, but given the band's past output, I'm not really sure if that's something they worry about that much. And without washing their sound out, as a lot of neo-psych bands often do with too much reverb, Guerilla Toss brings a superbly surreal and bizarre sound palette on this one, with trippy atmospheres of sour, twangy guitars, futuristic laser synths, crispy percussion, and squelchy bass. And the presentation of all of it is somehow stranger than it was on the band's last album too. A lot of the sounds on this thing sound kind of detuned. Like there's just something slightly off about the subtly sour harmonization of all the instrumentation on this thing. That sounded like a bar. As this album pretty much sounds like GT Ultra, but set in space and on LSD. Right from the opener on this thing, Magic is Easy. I love the slinky rhythm guitar riffs, the bow 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 bass. The soaring harmonized guitar leads are a nice touch too. The song has kind of a tedious pace to it though, but the song is still a pretty bold blend of post-punk and art pop and prog rock and even like something from a really bad, canceled, old school sci-fi television show theme song. Then there is the cheeky and hilarious Jesus Rabbit, a very wordy bit of freak pop with bleepy bloopy synthesizers, guitar riffs that kind of sound like they're melting as they're being played, and lyrics that dive into themes of faith and cult behavior, death, and space travel. I also love the mantra on this hook. Jesus, Jesus, take me from this planet. You're the leader, I'm your little rabbit. Sharp, witty, funny. Then there is the futuristic blend of funk and electronic dance music on the track Meteorological. Bustling beat, groovy little bass line on this thing, wild guitars, shimmering intergalactic synths. There's a lot going on with this one, especially as these sequenced synth arpeggios and swelling tones fly in and start filling up all the extra space in the song. Then the track literally shifts into an electronic piece with cycling beats and swirling synthesizers too. Then there's the strangely stiff hacking machine, which does have a very robotic vibe to it, but the song eventually does smooth out with some more fluid grooves and an exciting instrumental swell. The track pretty much sounds like a dance party for Devo cosplay people. Meanwhile, the song Come Up With Me is maybe one of the cutest and most genuine pieces of pop music the band has ever produced and written. The start of the track is a little overwhelming with these tractor beam synthesizers and fuzzed out guitar leads, but the inquisitive vocals and driving beat and cute little bass synthesizers sound like something that the Buggles left an imprint on. Super sticky chorus on this track too. Why don't you just come up with me? The equally catchy Jackie's Daughter features some bass guitar guitars and drums that feel like they're pulled right out of a Talking Heads track. But of course, Guerilla Toss has a very different vocal style on top of it. They enhance the instrumental with some very trippy bleeps and bloops and echoed synthetic percussive hits. Putting music out there that is mind-bending and strange is most definitely a strong and a consistent theme throughout this record. And the band really does save the best for last in that case with the song Green Apple. The track kicks off with this trippy desert drone with wailing violins, eventually builds in this groovy bass line, a rush of climbing guitars. The song really sounds like being trapped in a LSD nightmare with three-headed wolves howling at the moon and neon-colored snakes biting at my legs. Though the band does kind of sweeten the deal of that vibe with lots of quirky melodies. There are a couple tracks on this thing that I thought kind of got lost in their sound play, like the tune of the song wasn't nearly as strong as the weird sounds that the band seemed to pack the song with. Magic is Easy and the much too long and one-dimensional Walls of the Universe. Retreat was another super short track on the album that I thought also had some of the least interesting lyrics on the entire record too, as they weren't really quite as evocative and as out there as some of the other cuts on here. And just like GT Ultra and a lot of Guerilla Toss's past efforts too, this is a kind of scant album as well, about 30 minutes long, 9 tracks. However, I do appreciate that Guerilla Toss continue to pack a lot of punch and bold and fun and interesting ideas into a pretty short runtime. I enjoyed this about as much as I did their last LP. I would pretty much say Guerilla Toss have done it again. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Guerilla Toss forever.